Cutting Mechanics with the Longsword, the Zwerhaw. A tutorial by Keith Farrell. The Zwerhaw is one of the most important cuts in the various German methods of fencing with the longsword. It is a technique that, although fundamental, many people struggle to perform well. This video will help to explain how I understand and perform this technique, and I hope that you find something here that will help your own fencing. The sense and gist of this technique is that it goes across from one side to another, but also across the opponent's blade to provide cover. When holding the sword in Leingort or longpoint, you grip the sword mainly with the two little fingers on each hand. The other fingers are not such an important part of the grip. This allows the sword to project forward of the hands quite comfortably while keeping both wrists straight. The key thing here is that this grip keeps the wrists straight. When we try to perform a strike with the hands above the shoulders, it is difficult to keep the wrists straight unless we change the grip. Keeping your wrists straight serves two important functions. It lets you hit effectively, and it saves you from injuring yourself. Bending your wrists in a technique usually means a less effective cut and a greater chance of hurting yourself. Give yourself a thumbs up. Notice that the wrist is straight. Now put the sword into your hand so that the flat of the blade rests against your thumb. Your wrist is still straight, and this grip will let you work strongly and safely with your hands above your shoulders. You can mirror this grip with your other hand, but you don't have to. Just keep that wrist straight while holding onto the sword and you will be fine. This hand serves no special purpose in the technique other than to help hold onto the sword and to help support it with the strength of the body. If you hear people talking about thumbing the blade, this is probably the sort of grip that they mean. Hold the sword in front of you in the Zwerhaw grip with your arms outstretched. I often find it helpful to think of this as a flat long point. Raise this long point up above your head, allowing your elbows to bend slightly for comfort. It is now essentially a flat vom Tag. Rotate both elbows to your non-dominant side so that they stay at more or less the same height, so that the arms keep more or less the same structure. The elbows orbit around the shoulders until the sword is pointing forward. It is now essentially an ox position, and you haven't really done anything to change your structure. This is important. You don't change your structure in the cut. You don't try to cut from guard to guard. You form a good structure and move that structure through the target, and it just so happens that you can give names to some of those waypoints. The cut itself is just a matter of moving your structure from a well-chambered position through the target. Send your cut forward. It may look like a side-to-side cut, but if you try to pull the sword to the side, you will rob it of reach and effectiveness. It will achieve results if you launch it along a good path with good structure and then let it do its thing without causing it any new problems. Chamber your blow, rotate and send the sword forwards, and maintain your structure. Let it finish where it finishes. Anything which relies on fine detail of the fingers, hands and wrists will be a bad cut. These examples are not very good. Anything where you radically change your structure during the cut will be bad. Anything that you can do in bare hands that fails when you start wearing protective gloves is also a bad cut. You should be working with gross body movements, as this will allow you to perform the technique effectively regardless of whether or not you wear gloves or how fresh or tired you happen to be. A good cut will cut quite easily. A bad cut will never achieve much. It still won't achieve much, even with strength. Good mechanics will work even when you wear heavy gloves. Bad mechanics won't work with heavy gloves, but don't blame your gloves for your cut failing. Doing a good cut is better than doing a bad cut. Doing one good cut gives you more good results than doing 10 bad cuts. Doing one good cut is still better than doing several bad cuts quickly and with strength, because you'll still not achieve a good result with bad cuts. Here are a few different exercises to help train your entry into the Zwerhaw from various other actions. Work through them slowly and as correctly as you can, making sure to keep your wrists straight and work with the strength of the whole body rather than just with your arms. You should use the sword with the same gross body mechanics when you perform your Zwerhaw two-handed, one-handed, other-handed, or with a messer. Oberhau, thrust, Zwerhaw. Oberhau, thrust, Zwerhaw. Oberhau, Zwerhaw, Zwerhaw. Oberhau, Zwerhaw, Zwerhaw. Flat long point, Zwerhaw, flat long point, other Zwerhaw. Aufstreichen, Zwerhaw. Aufstreichen, Zwerhaw. Oberhau, Zwerhaw to the same opening. Oberhau, Zwerhaw to the same opening. Squat under ox, up into Zwerhaw with a step. Squat under ox, up into Zwerhaw with a step. Make a good structure and keep it. Keep your wrists straight throughout, otherwise your cut will be weak and you risk hurting yourself. Gross body movements are more useful than fine detail movements. Let the sword do its thing without interrupting it or giving it new problems. Your sword is good at doing its thing. Let it. Although it looks like a cut to ox, it isn't really. It is a movement of your body structure where many of the waypoints can be given names. Focus on creating and moving a good structure and don't worry about trying to cut to ox or any nonsense like that. And remember, a good cut is better in every way than a bad cut. If you would like some further help with your techniques, I offer online coaching and private tuition and would be delighted to help.